Welcome to a critical process in changing your thought pattern and the things that you hear from different people. You know, there have been a lot of myths that have been spread about how to get things done, about what to focus on, about different ways and methods of organizing your life, all kinds of things like that. And I want to go over something that is adapted from Gary Keller's The One Thing, and it is the 6 lies about productivity, about success, about actually getting things done. And you're going to see where if you change some of the ways, the methods, and the means that you are using to succeed, you're going to have more success and you're going to be focused on the right things instead of getting distracted, instead of following different ways that really don't work and that take away from your productivity and your success. So let's get into, we've heard a lot of times that everything matters equally when you are building a business or in your life. And the reality is that's not true. You have a limited amount of time. It's a finite amount of time. You have 24 hours in a day. You have 7 days a week. You have 365 days in a year, unless it's a leap year and you have 366. But those things do not change. So you have to be very, very protective of your time. And a lot of times people will say, well, let's do a to-do list. Let's write down everything that we need to do and go through that list. Well, you know, sometimes it's a great thing to write down a to-do list or a things that need to be done, but then it's up to you to figure out what you should be doing and what you could be doing. You're going to take those could do things, you're going to give them to somebody else. You're going to find somebody who can do them better than you can. You're going to concentrate on the things that you should do. And that's that 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle, where 20% of your activity is going to lead to 80% of your success. And that's the same with anything. And it's an undeniable fact in any business, in anything that you do. It doesn't matter what it is. 20% of your efforts will lead to 80% of your results. So you've got to narrow down your to-do list into a success list. And that's the things that you should be doing as opposed to the things that you could be doing. And we'll get into some of the other pieces of that as well. The other piece of that is multitasking. It's one of the huge myths ever that has been perpetrated in business. There is absolutely no such thing as multitasking. Multitasking is a massive myth that does not work. And the reason for that is that you cannot focus solely on multiple things at the same time. You can walk and chew gum at the same time, but the second that you've got to look for a map or figure out if you are giving directions to somebody on your phone, you've got to stop, and you will stop one of those things. Whether it's the chewing gum or the walking, one of those things is going to stop, if not both, so you can concentrate on doing the directions or whatever it is that you're doing. So you've got to figure out that you cannot and should not multitask. You know, that term came from computers when they were programming and doing computers many, many years ago, and they would say that the computer can multitask. Well, that's actually a myth as well. A computer does not multitask. A computer's processor functions and concentrates on one thing at a time. Now, it can do those one things at a time so much faster than we can even see, so it looks like it's multitasking, but a processor processes one thing at a time. And that's the same thing with your brain. The brain processes one thing at a time. The challenge is that you've got your primary work that you're doing, right? And say you're working on a program, say you're working on telephone calls, and you're doing one of those 20% activities, and you're calling for sale by owners in a day, and you've blocked out your morning time frame to call for sale by owners. Well, all of a sudden somebody walks in your office and they ask you a question. Well, your brain has to shut off from the for sale by owner scripts and dialogues that you're going, the habits that you're doing at that point in time. It's got to switch focus onto whatever that person asked you. You're going to change and do or answer or get involved in whatever it is. And then guess what happens? when you come back, you've got to reorient yourself. You've got to switch yourself back to your for sale by owner calls, and it takes time. So maybe they walked in to your office and it took them 30 seconds to walk in. It took them 15 seconds to ask you a question. But then here's where the challenge is for you to stop what you're doing in the thought process, to reorient yourself to whatever it is they're asking you, and then to answer the question or do whatever it is a couple of minutes. But then the challenge is you've got to get back into your groove. You've got to turn the switch back on. You've got to reorient yourself back to your primary task, your 20% activity, calling for sale by owners, expireds, whatever it is. Get back into that. And it is, you've probably lost 15 to 20 to 30 minutes by that interruption. That's 15, 20, 30 minutes that you could have been truly in the zone and making things happen. Guys, concentrate on what you're doing, that primary work. You're going to get more done in less time, and you're going to get it done well and correctly as well. And you'll see the results when you do it. So do not multitask. Don't let anybody tell you that you can, because it's a myth and it's absolutely a lie to you. So what do you mean by a disciplined life? That means that you have certain habits. You know, discipline is one of those things that over time you have the choice to do something or not. And let's take exercise for an example. So many agents don't take time to work on their lives, their fitness, things like that. Your body is the tool that you've got for success. If you're not taking care of it, you are limiting what you can do, because the fact of the matter is, if you're not taking care of yourself, you're not going to take care of the other things that you need to do. And at some point in time, it's going to fail. Your role, your body, your mind, and things like that are absolutely affected 100% by how you treat it, what you put into it, and what you do to get out of it. So to change that, and I did that. And as a matter of fact, you know, I took the last 3 years off kind of because I was concentrating on my daughter and getting her into the Olympics. And I figured out that that wasn't a good reason, but it was an excuse. And it was me not blocking and taking and making the disciplined decisions to keep fitness as a habit. And the funny thing is, you know, the before that, I was running ultra marathons and doing massive stuff physically, and all of a sudden it just cut one day. And over the next 3 years, I gained 20, 25 pounds. Wait a minute, no, 35 pounds. And things started to catch up and things started to go wrong that I didn't want to do. And it's harder and harder and harder. And it's easier and easier and easier to forget about doing those things unless you provide, and those become new habits. So you've got to go through a disciplined process over a period of 66 days. And I'm going to put the 66-day form and checklist on here so you guys can change different things in your life and make those things happen. And as a matter of fact, I went through it and I'm in the process of going through it every single month. I will do something every other month. At the longest term, I will make sure that I am going through a disciplined process, checking off those boxes for 66 days to make a new habit, because you're going to have to think about it for 66 days. Once you have thought about it and made the right choices, then it's not a discipline piece of it. It's actually a habit. And the discipline process is easier and easier and easier. So I'll challenge you right now. If you're not doing something physically on a daily basis to keep your body and your mind and your heart and everything else going, start that today. Don't wait till next week. Don't wait till next month. Don't wait till whatever. Start it right now, today. Go walk around the block, do something, and then have that habit. Make that disciplined decision to do that for the next 66 days. I'm going to tell you something. That will change your life alone. So go do it and join me in that. As a matter of fact, put a video on your Facebook page and tag me in it so that I can see yours. You can go back and you can take a look at mine and that 66-day transformation that I did when I got disciplined to do it again. So here's a piece. You've got willpower. You can make the right decisions through a daily basis. But what happens is that as you continue to move through your day, you get tired. You start certain things, and as you continue to process them and as you continue to work on those things, your mind is going to drift. It's going to go out of that process. So when you start the process of working on a new project, and say it's your morning block that you've got, you're going to be very focused on it when you start. As it continues to go, your focus is going to be there, but it is going to start going off. So you've got to take breaks as you find yourself waning in your actual productivity. And that's perfectly fine, because you don't want to sit in your office from 4 o'clock in the morning until 4 o'clock in the afternoon or 6 o'clock at night or whatever it is. You're going to make sure that you have your blocks. So you're going to have that morning block, you're going to have that afternoon block, and you're going to have your end of day. So your willpower, your brain is going to be in there at that time, but it is going to wane. So let it do it. Take a break at the end of those blocks. Get up, walk around, and start a different block. So if you're working on a website, or you're working in the mornings on calling for sale by owners, in the afternoon, make it a completely different thing, so that your mind is changing and getting out of that groove of doing the for sale by owner calls and into the groove of either showing or working and helping your agents or whatever it is that you're going to do. But make different things throughout the day so that you're concentrating and your brain is moving correctly as you go through your day. A balanced life. This is one of the huge myths of what happens as well. If you're, everybody talks about a balanced life. You've got to have work life, and you've got to have your life, your personal life, your family life. And yes, you do have that, but it's not something that is perfect throughout the day. It's something that you work on. Maybe there's a week where you're really focused on work, and then you've got your vacation planned, and the next 3 days you have zero work, and you're extremely back into your personal life as you go back there. But then once you get back to work, you're way back over here as well, and you're really concentrating and focused on that work life and productivity. And guys, it's okay. You're going to go back and forth like that, and it's perfectly fine, because you are focused on the right things at the right time. And as long as you're time blocking and scheduling and making sure that that piece of your life is good, then you're going to have a counterbalanced life, as you see. So it goes from one extreme to a little bit over here, and then back to the other extreme, and then a little bit, and then back to the other extreme as you go through. And it's perfectly fine, because that is the reality of what it is. There's no such thing as a perfectly balanced life where you've got equal work, equal personal life, equal family time, and all of those different things. It just doesn't work. And you've got an 8-hour workday for most people, sometimes 10, sometimes 12, depending on where you are in your process and your business at the time. And then you only have, when you go home, you can't spend another 8, 10, or 12 hours on your other life to be perfectly balanced. It's impossible unless you want to stay up for 24 hours or only get 2 to 4 hours of sleep every night, which again is not healthy for you either. So you're going to be fine counterbalancing those different things. But here's the thing: when you are at work and that's what you're focused on, then focus on that. Don't focus on Facebook and answering calls from people and things like that. Focus on what it is your priority one thing while you're there. And then when you're home, focus on your kids, your spouse, whatever it happens to be. That's where your focus is. If you're going to the gym, focus on that. So you're going to find it going back and forth, but it's going to be counterbalanced as you go through life. And that's where you're going to succeed, instead of going, okay, I've got to spend 4 hours over here, so I need to spend 4 hours over here. It doesn't work like that. And that's just the reality. Anybody that tells you that is, one, not successful, and two, is feeding you another lie. So here's what we also hear as well. And a lot of times we make this mistake because we think that thinking big is sometimes wrong. Well, I want to do, I'm brand new in the business. I want to do 10 million. Great. Well, why not 20? If you've got the action together to do it, then you can do it. If you're at 10 million, well, I want to get to 20 million. Well, why not 50? Think big. Big is outstanding, because if you continue to think small, you're going to have small outcomes. When you think big, you're going to have big outcomes, because you're going to ask yourself different questions. The key is you've got to know what, how, and who that you need to achieve what you want to achieve. And we're going to talk about that as well. Your time and your effort is going to end up being the same thing as you're thinking. So if you're thinking, I'm going to go from $0 to $20 million this year, then you're going to ask different questions as somebody coming in saying, I'm going to go from 0 to selling $2 million this year or $4 million. It's a different thought process, but what happens is you start thinking big. You start thinking bold. You start thinking that I can do this. And then you start answering different questions as well. So think big. And if you're thinking big, think bigger. How many of you would have been able to go from 100 pounds overweight and a drug problem to 10, 12 years later having a $1 billion business? I know an agent who exactly did that. So there's no such thing as too big. The key is the actions and the questions that you're going to ask and take, and the what and the how and the who that is going to help you achieve those things. So think big.